Okay. So thank you, everybody, for turning up to show and tell 35, I believe, but we're calling this show and tell 11 on our second work stream, or second go at this. I'm Colin Harris. I'm the website operations manager. I haven't been part of this project for a little bit of time. But both Jez and Pete are away on leave this week, so I am standing in for them, and we are now all part of one single digital team. So I will be more involved in this project moving forward. So we all start these show and tells with going through our vision, which is we will give our residents more free time by making everything that they do with the council faster and easier. So it's a very generic statement, but also it's make sure that we target the resident and make sure that that when we are thinking about everything that we design, it's with the resident in mind, and it's not to achieve one specific aim, but it's to make their lives easier and faster when they interact with the council. So really quickly, because I know a lot of people have seen these slides before, but we work in a user-centered approach in order to achieve these aims. And the way that we do that is that we only publish content that meets user needs, and so we're constantly looking at the user to make sure that everything that we do is focused upon them. And we have produced a service engagement document. So when we start speaking to services, we will go through that with you a little bit more detail about how we work together, etc. But very quickly, some of those things are that we work. We start small and we iterate. That's part of producing things as an MVP, which is minimum viable product. That allows us to produce things quickly. And get things deployed as fast as we can, and then allows us to iterate further on this further down the line. In this particular case, it probably allows us to also move on to other areas, other service areas within the council, so that we target your highest volume tasks, and we make sure that those things are done first, and then we can move back and look at these the smaller, less high volume tasks later down the line once we've achieved other parts of the service. And then again, very quickly, to talk about who does what, we now have a team of content designers. So they will be helping you and your services to take your content, review it, edit it into a user-centered design. And so we have a team of people from Scroll who we are working with. But then I'm also really pleased to say that we also have an in-house team who are now also working as content designers, and they are able to take this content and repurpose it and try and make it as simple as possible. The flip side of that is that we also, in order to do these projects, we need product owners, and those product owners will come from the council. They will be from within the service. And they, whenever we start one of these work streams, we are looking for somebody who is able to be a single point of contact, to be able to find all the stakeholders that are required, and then make sure that the content that we are producing is accurate and up to date, and that meets all of the business objectives as well as the customer objectives. So usually when we start up these work streams, that's what we're looking for within the council, so that we have a single person that is able to answer these questions as quickly as possible, so we can get these things published and out the door and move on to onto our next task. This is where our content design process looks like. Everything in blue is something for the product owner. So as you can see, I think it's very much 50-50 here. So we will do our designs, we will do the user research, we will come back to you with the research, but all the way through, the product owners are being consulted at the beginning, and then quite a few of our work streams now are in these final stages, and that's where we require the product owners in order to review, make sure that everything is ready so that we can get things published and delivered to you as quickly as we can. I think this is my final slide here, but this was really to show that in order for us to produce a good user experience, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with our user needs, which with your service goals, and then also within the technical straits of the management system that we have and the development time that we can do. So we try and hit sort of a perfect middle ground here, and but that necessitates that we have some things which don't get delivered in exactly the way that we want in order so that we can hit all of those goals. Okay, so over the past 2 weeks, which is our latest sprint, we have been working on these four work streams. We have client transport. They are towards the end of that progression. So we're looking for product owners to be reviewing that content, because we've done a lot of the research and we want to iterate on that. We have the planning and building control findings. So we've done our research and we're coming back to you with some of that information. School admissions again. So school admissions, we've been looking at all of your content, and we're starting to come up with some findings on that research. And then finally, we're building step-by-step templates in order to be able to present some sort of time-specific information a little bit more relevantly. On top of that, we have a few more ongoing tasks. We have a long-form template, which we're still working on. And then we are still trying to juggle around some of our information architecture, which is mostly talking about some of our homepage. And then we have a campaign template, which is, I believe, more or less ready for deployment. So we're hoping to have that out in the foreseeable future. So now, if I can, I would like to hand over to Tom, who is going to talk a little bit about the work that he's been doing in client transport.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Tom, and I'm a designer from Unboxed. I've been working on a work stream with client transport alongside content designer Jen Hodgson, who is not here today. But if I could have the next slide, please. The work we've been doing so far has been completing the prototype journeys. And so you can see the first, so we picked 3 journeys, which we agreed with the service area. And these describe sort of 3 of the things we'd identified from research activities we'd done as sort of most key to tackle up front. The first one of these was the spare seat scheme. And for those that are unfamiliar, this is the scheme by which the council provides transport. So it provides some transport for those who are eligible for free transport. And sometimes on the buses that it's put on to provide that free transport, there are spare seats. And this is a way that parents can pay for those seats if they wish to. And we've helped them deliver this journey, so explaining how it works. There's a different prioritization process, there's different dates and costs and stuff. And so this content has looked at helping try and reduce some of that complexity. So we've put some new content onto the prep server. So this means the prep server exists as a copy of the live site, but it's a place where we can design and test new content in a way that looks identical and works in a very similar way. And it means once we've tested it, once we've iterated it, once we've got feedback from the service, we can just translate it straight across over onto the live site in a very easy way. And it really helps reduce the amount of time that we might spend prototyping and then redoing and copying things across. So it's really helpful. And sat alongside this is a new form structure. So we explain how you can apply. And then at some point you're handed off. And at the moment, this goes into a firm step form where you can put in your child's details, put in your address, etc., so that you can actually submit an application to have one of these spare seats available. But we're keeping all the same data that's collected. We've just changed how it's presented. Could I have the next slide, please? The second journey we've looked at is eligibility for free school transport. Again, we've put some new content up. And we've delivered a couple of new form structures. At the moment, there's kind of one big form known as the Contact Us form, which kind of contains 16 or 17 different options for things you can do. And it's sort of slightly inefficient because parents get a bit lost there, and they often revert to just calling up or using my query isn't listed, even if it is, just because it becomes a little bit difficult to find. So we're helping to create individual personalized, or well, not personalized, but individual journeys for each of these tasks to really help parents or guardians find the right content or access the right form at the right point. And if we have the next slide, please. And the final journey we've looked at is renewals. So this is in relation to paid for transport or the spare seat scheme. And this is supporting parents to renew this. And so again, so some new content. And we've also looked at a new form structure, taking it out of the Contact Us form again, making it super easy so that parents and guardians aren't getting lost in this sort of in the big Contact Us form at the moment. And if we could have the next slide, please. So what I will now do is I'm going to demo what some of this looks like on the content prep server. So I believe you should now be able to see my screen. Great. And so I'm just going to take you through the applying for the spare seat. So at the moment, this is an exact copy of what is on the live site, but this is on the content prep site. And where we've made changes is within this link, applying for a spare seat on a school transport bus. So as you can see, we've broken down this section into different parts, which you can link to straight away. One of the challenges with this area, and we uncovered this in our research, was that there was a lot of reference to a policy document, and the policy document explained some of the nuance in how this service was to be delivered, particularly around how priority was assigned, what the timelines were like, and also some of what it did guarantee and what it didn't guarantee. And so what we've worked hard to do is to pull this information out of that policy document, because we understood and observed that this wasn't really being looked at by parents and guardians. It was seen as the terms and conditions that you kind of didn't need to look at, but it was quite important, really. So we've pulled some of this information out. We've also explained how it works, and we've also linked to places to go to if you are unable to get a spare seat, because it's an application process and not everyone who applies is guaranteed a place. It's important that we don't just give a hard stop to that journey, but we offer ways to find other alternatives. Once we've explained how it works, there's a link that explains how to apply. And this takes through the steps. So checking if there are available seats to apply for is the first step. Then you can apply online and you wait to find out if your application was successful. And if so, you can pay and then you get your bus and you can see the timetable. So this gives starts to pull out some of that process, make it very clear step by step. And we're actually looking at how we can improve the presentation of this step-by-step process. And I think Lawrence or someone may present that work later on. Routes available. So this information is published at the moment, and we've looked at different ways we can help make this really clear. So we've slightly changed the way that the stops are presented to make it really clear and obvious and at a glance available. So you can see, for example, on this bus on Amersham School, there are no seats available. So therefore, at this point, I'd be able to see that, it's not possible for me to get a spare seat. Whereas for the Beaconsfield High School, I can see that, if I live in Flackwell Heath, there is a stop nearby and I could potentially access a seat this way. We include dates, and again, these are open all the year round to be referenceable and to allow not to hide this away just in confirmation emails. And so it gives good access and good clarity around when a parent might be able to expect a reply. One of the challenges with the spare seat scheme is that there can be quite long periods of time where parents or guardians are unaware why there's been no notifications. And this is because there is a lot of work going on in the background and certain things need to be done in an order. So this is just trying to demystify some of that and make it reduce the amount of contacts, which are just what's going on, why haven't I heard yet? Because they can see there's a clear date by which certain things will be happening, and therefore before that date that they do not need to chase it up. We've looked at what it costs and how to pay, and some of this was splitting out some of the termly payments, the annual payments and the direct debit, making it really clear sort of what the costs are at the different points in time, and then also what the total cost is as well, because they were kind of all grouped together in the current way, and it was slightly confusing for the users and the residents to uncover this. Again, we've reflect more of the policy here. So this is around prioritising applications, and we've got sections on renewing bus pass. I was going to quickly run through the form. So on how to apply, you can access apply online. We now have a start page, which helps you identify all the information you need before you can use this form. So you need to know the bus route and the stop your child will use. And then potentially if you are applying with one of these priority cases, you will need to provide some evidence. So we identify what that is so you can start. So as we've left the content prep server now, and we're using another prototyping tool to help us look at the forms. One of the main changes we've made is to split out the sections of the forms so that rather than asking for all the possible details on one page, which can be slightly overwhelming and at times confusing, we've put them into chunks. So you first put in the child's details, name and date of birth. You put in the address that you wish to use, and then you start by selecting the school and the school year. And this pre-populates what bus routes you're looking to apply for and what bus stop the child will be using. And again, here you've got a link back to check on the available routes. We ask for any details around the child. So, and this is where we collect the prioritization information. So if you select yes, you can then upload a file type that would be, for example, a letter confirming the foster or adoption certificate. And finally, the parents' details. And we've done some work, particularly around looking at how the email address can be confirmed. So one of the issues that actually we uncovered in testing was that they only ask for the email once on the form. And that means it's super easy to mistype your email and then you're locked out of the system, and because you can't access that form, you don't get any of the confirmation, and you just have no way of getting that application back. So we've used a pattern that's been used elsewhere on government systems. As you type in an email, it plays it back to you. And there's also a confirm your email address. So there's sort of two ways of verifying this email in place and helping to make sure that what is kind of a key way for this information or for contact between the person who's applying for this scheme and the council is sort of verified as much as it can be. And then we get a check your answers thing. So currently we do play back the answers to the applicant, but we do it post submission. Here we're proposing to bring it forward so they have the opportunity to change any details. Again, if there's something that's gone wrong, a piece of address or some other detail that's not correct, it can be changed before the submission is made. And when the submission is made, it's a very clear application complete. Sting and indication of what's going to happen next. So I will stop sharing, and we will. And Colin, if you want to share back the presentation, I'm going to talk about user testing. So using the content prep server and the prototype I've shown you, we've been testing this with parents and guardians from Buckinghamshire. If I could have the next slide, please. So 6 sessions have been completed, and these have been really useful. So we've been able to get local knowledge, and this has uncovered some issues around how bus stop information was presented. So it wasn't quite clear, sort of place names and road names were sort of back to front in some ways, or they were grouped in slightly confusing ways, and it's helped us unravel some of that and make sure it's very clear to people, and so that you don't need to apply local knowledge to sort of work out where a bus stop is, for example. It's also indicated some of the false efficiencies that we thought we might have been adding in our prototype. So, for example, we explored ways that a bus pass number could be used to support the renewal journey, and this meant you only needed to add that in and you could then renew, which reduced the amount of time they were taking to fill out the forms. However, if you haven't got access to that bus pass number, for example, it is obviously on the bus pass, but your child may have it at school and you might be trying to apply when they're not around, this becomes a bit of a blocker, and it then actually takes you much longer to achieve the thing. So that's brought that to our awareness. We've uncovered some interaction issues, particularly around the large menu, and this is something we're tackling across the site, is ways that we might be able to get around this issue, because it's come up across a couple of service areas. We've been able to confirm that our content's clear and explains the processes in ways that parents understand, and they feel sort of reassured in being able to make the right decisions for them, for their child. We've also uncovered how much parents sort of rely on assumptions and their own knowledge from when they were at school. And this has helped us write content or help us improve the content by tackling some of these sort of urban myths around how school transport as a service from client transport works. And I've worked with Jen to highlight where we're going to iterate on this service. I will hand over now to the next presenter.
Thanks very much, Tom. Hi, everyone. So in planning and building, we've been looking at our research findings. We've done some more user testing on several of the journeys that we've created. And we've been looking at the feedback that we've received from the users. And we've been looking at solutions to some of the issues that have been raised and some of the challenges, if you like, that have been thrown up. Next slide, please, Colin. So overall, users actually did like the website and they could, generally speaking, find their way around. But there were a couple of things that stopped them from, if you like, finding their way around and completing their journeys as smooth as they would like. So these are the things that we have to tackle, that we need to look at and that we discussed and that we've come up with some solutions for. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the first things that came up was that some of the pages felt very cluttered. So as you've just seen Tom make reference to, we're now looking at using more step-by-step flows. It's in use. Lots of other councils use these for their journeys and also on gov.uk. And it does what it says on the tin and what you can also see on the screen there. And as Tom also demonstrated for some of the work that he's been doing for client transport, it just enables the users to have a better understanding of where they are in the journey. They know how many steps they're going to have to complete. And within each step, there is guidance. There's more information if they require it. And there are also links taking them to other pages and also to forms that they might need to complete or simply just to give them more information about what it is that they need to do. This helps the page to feel less cluttered, but there's still enough information in there that users don't feel overwhelmed and feel like they don't know what to do or they're feeling lost. And so rather than having all of the information on the page and it feeling overwhelmed and very cluttered and hard to find out what you need to do, we can signpost them to guidance. So by keeping the most essential information on the page in a step-by-step pattern and then referring the users elsewhere for additional information if they need it, but also making it easy for them to come back to complete the rest of their journey. Next page, please, Colin. Thank you. One of the other things as well that came up is that users felt as if they were going round and round in circles. So what was happening sometimes is that we were giving them information on our pages about what they needed to do to complete a journey. We would then refer them to somewhere else, the planning portal, for instance. And what they would then be presented with is a page that looked almost exactly like the one they had just left. The same amount of content, the same type of content, and essentially they didn't actually feel as if they were progressing or going anywhere. They were like, well, haven't we just been on this page? Haven't you already told me this? So they felt as if they weren't actually progressing, they weren't going anywhere. They've left one page, they've gone to another, it's the exact same information on it. So we're looking at a number of things here. One of the things that we thought would definitely help is linking better. So rather than linking to a page that's got lots and lots of the exact same information on, we're thinking about why don't we link directly to the forms where possible? Sounds quite obvious, but it wasn't something that we had anticipated. And so rather than them feeling as if they're getting the same information all the time, they leave our pages knowing what they have to do, and they go directly to the form or to the page with more information on if that's what's required, rather than feeling as if they're simply looking at the same thing each step of their journey. And so whether that's in the planning portal or on the legacy websites, just making sure that it feels as if there's some kind of progression. They're going on to actually complete a journey. They're actually going on to do a transaction rather than looking at what feels like an identical page. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. So then also as well, better use of headings and subheadings. Seems really obvious, but on some pages we have to present a lot of information because there are lots of options that we need to provide the users with. But what we need to do is make sure that we're grouping the options, whether these are page titles or steps within a flow, in a way that makes sense. And sometimes grouping them using better use of headings and subheadings is a way to do that. So making it clearer, where are you? You're step 5 of 12, or you're at this stage now, and the next stage is this. And then also grouping lots and lots of information by headings so that if you're doing these types of transactions, this is the direction that you should be going in. This is where you need to look. And these are the pages or the links that you're going to be selecting from. And if you need to do this, then you need to go over here. And this was one of the things that, again, users came back to us about, well, I'm not quite sure where I need to go, or I'm not quite sure what I need to do, or it feels like there's just a little bit too much information being presented to me. And I think it's called choice paralysis, isn't it? It's like there's just too much going on. I don't don't quite know where to go or where, what to do. So let's make it easier for them to make those decisions by grouping things in a more logical fashion. And we can look at things such as user needs, what it is that they actually need to get done. And that's a very good way of thinking about grouping things. People that need to do these types of journeys or these types of transactions can go towards these options. So there's some of the key findings that came out of the research that we recently undertook. The next step for us is to hold a workshop that's going to be held next week with some of the heads of services within planning to discuss further the research findings and also to come up with solutions. And then, of course, there will be more testing taking place at some point, but they're going to be the most immediate steps for us on planning and building. Thanks very much. I'll pass back to Colin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we are now with David for some info. We've recently published some stuff on the site, so it's good to see stuff going live.
Thanks, Colin. So if they could go to the first slide, please. So our show and tells are a chance for us to give you an update on the work we're doing behind the scenes to help improve the council website and make it easier for our users to interact with the site and the services we offer. But on this occasion, I'm excited as we have a chance to talk about content that's actually gone live and has recently been published on the council website. Work on council tax content began many months ago when Dominic James, the website channel management analyst from the Buck Service Improvement team, began auditing the existing pages as part of his work on rejuvenating our revenues and benefits content in preparation for the launch of a new payment portal later this year. Our main goal in this work is to migrate all council tax content from the district sites to the main Bucks site, but it also presents a golden opportunity to revisit the content and make it more friendly and helpful for users. Dominic spent many weeks working with the council tax team, discussing their content and figuring out how it could be best presented on the site. And once Dominic had done all the hard work, that's where I came in. As a content designer, I was able to hit the ground running and write content that was comprehensive, factually correct, and focused on the needs of users. As part of the content creation process, I also worked closely with our UX team to build prototype pages that we tested with users and which helped us to be sure that we were on the right path. Guided by the needs of the service team and positive feedback from user testing sessions, Dominic and I developed new content to help users understand how to pay their council tax and how they can get help if they're having financial difficulties. Could I have the next slide, please, Colin? As Dominic was in close contact with the service team, this freed me up to spend time designing the council tax content and try different approaches to presenting the information. If I got stuck when writing the content as I didn't understand processes or legal issues, Dominic was able to quickly email the team and get an explanation from the service about how things work, and this allowed me to stay focused on the needs of users. Now that the content is published, we're reasonably pleased with the results. We worked with the service team to eliminate jargon, confusing acronyms and buzzwords that are used internally in the council. And we're happy that in the pages we tested with users, our subjects were able to quickly find the information they needed and understand what we were saying. We also experimented with using accordion drop-down sections to reduce the length of pages, which is particularly important on small mobile screens, as we don't want users to have to keep scrolling and scrolling to find what they want. The accordions also allow us to provide all the detail users need and expect, but contain this information in sections that users only reveal when it is relevant to them. In user testing, we found that our subjects immediately understood the drop-downs and how to use them. But in the coming weeks and months, we'd be interested to do more testing on this, just to be sure our users know how to collapse the sections and reveal the information they need to see. Next slide, please. But despite all our efforts, the work we've done on council tax content so far is essentially a halfway house. When the new revenues and benefits payment portal launches towards the end of this year, we will revisit all the pages and refit them so that they work with the new system. But even though the pages we've just published include a number of boxes that drive users to payment content on our district sites, which will remain relevant until the new payment portal launches, we're pleased that the new council tax content is a step in the right direction and is a chance for us to see what works and what doesn't before the new system is introduced. So back to you, Colin.
Thanks, David. Yeah, it's a good example of product owner and content designer working together. So now I think we move on to school admissions, and Stuart's going to lead us through that.
thanks, Colin. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So yeah, since the last show and tell, we've used our discovery findings about the emissions content to start creating our new pages. Previously, we published an emissions guide as our main pages. This caused lots of pages, lots of information, lots of clicks, and quite a lot of confusion for some users who were looking to do something but unsure where to look. And we're still publishing these under a policy section. This is because it's a legislative thing that we have to publish, but we're actually now trying to surface the tasks within them as our main pages and then directly linking back into the guide where we need to explain more complex things. This keeps our content pages simple and easy to digest, but ensures that the information is still easy to find. Next slide, please, Colin. By working with the emissions team, and it's a big shout out to Rosie Robinson, who's not on the call, but she's been helping a lot this week. We've been able to understand the key tasks and use these as page titles so that users can find them easily. Make sure that the content is focused on the task or just includes what users need to complete the task, and links out, as I said before, to the emissions guide for all the supporting information. As we started to finish these pages, we can start sending them to the service for feedback, and then we will obviously iterate based on all the feedback we get. And that is me. On to the next slide then, Colin. And based on that, we will then loop into some user testing. So with our draft content complete, we'll look to test it with actual users. It's important for us to reassure people who are testing that we're looking to test our assumptions on the content and layout, not their ability to find things as sort of computer users. When we do our testing, we'll give certain users tasks to carry out, such as finding out school application processes and where would you look for this, or can you tell me when the applications close for the next school year. We'll be looking to test the new layout. Is it confusing, or do people generally click into the area we expect? Is the content clear enough? Is there too much information or not enough information to get what they need? And can specific information, for example, closing dates for applications, be found easily? We're looking to have completed some user testing by the next show and tell, and to iterate our pages based on any feedback we have. And next slide, please, Colin. Oh yeah, this is me too. Next slide. Sorry. Alongside the school admissions, we've also been working on another service, which is the taxi licensing. So we've been working with the taxi licensing team to review the existing licensing pages, which are spread out across all of the district council sites. We've worked to understand how the licensing team safeguard members of the public. And we've also started to create a set of pages in time for the launch of their new application portal, which goes live in September. Next slide, please. So the content for taxi licensing is mainly geared towards the drivers and operators who apply and renew their licenses. However, there's also a more public-facing side, which is related to making complaints about drivers, general safeguarding, and finding Vs or types of taxi, including wheelchair-accessible ones, available. When looking at the content for the licensing pages, we've highlighted, as we did with the admissions pages, the top user tasks for both drivers, operators, and the public. We've acknowledged that drivers and the public sometimes use different language when speaking about the same thing. So although a taxi is a taxi, when you're applying for a license, it's often referred to as a hackney carriage license. So it's important that we use the correct terminology. And we've also tried to make the content pages as clear as possible and with as few words as possible. And this is because from talking to stakeholders, we know that drivers often use their mobile phone, sometimes between 2 and 3 in the morning in between bookings. They'll go on there to renew their license. So it's really important that the pages are easy to use. The next step is to finalise the draft content. We'll get that over to the team for initial feedback, as with admissions, and we will then be testing it with drivers and operators to make sure that it all makes sense. And we're going to do all of that before beginning of September somehow. So that's it, me done. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Yeah, looks looking forward to some of the feedback from the user research next time. Okay, so that's the end of our presentation. I am conscious that we've run a little bit over time. Thank you for bearing with us. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to take them now, or indeed you can put them in the chat, and we will endeavour to answer them for you. And if there are no questions, that is it. So thank you very much for everybody for attending, and we'll hopefully see everybody again in a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.